Hello again and welcome back to the studio.
Small studies like this one are an efficient way to experiment with different techniques and colours before committing them to a canvas. And as we go, I'll share lots of useful time and energy saving tips, so look out for the blue banners on screen. To save ourselves some time and energy, we're going to pre-mix our colours. So I'm going to have a quick look at the reference and start mixing some colours that I think will be useful. So I'll start with some white and add a tiny amount of cad orange. That would be good for highlights. Then I'll mix together some white and some blue for the sky colour for the top of the sky. And then we can take some of that blue and some alizarin crimson, mix those two together to get a purplish colour, which would be good for some of the clouds and some parts of the ocean. You can add white to it if it's too dark. And then we can maybe take some of that blue again and add a tiny amount of orange, and that will give us like a orangey brownish colour for some parts of the ocean as well. These are just a few colours to start with. We can always add to them as we go along. I like to do my small studies on toned paper, but it's not necessary. You can paint on any surface. So I'm just using some diluted ultramarine blue, and I've marked out where I'd like the horizon to be, and then I'm going to mark out where some clouds could be. Now I'm not using a photograph for today's painting. I'm just doing this from my imagination, so really I'm just making it up as we go along. And I'll make a little indication of where the sun will be as well. And now that we have a little sketch to work towards, we can start blocking in. And I'm using my biggest brush, and I'm using a quick brush strokes. I'm going to just block in the top of the sky a bluish colour, and then as I get nearer to the middle of the page, I'll add a bit more white to it to make it lighter. And then I'll add the orange parts of the sky in. As I'm painting the orange into the blue, I'm just feathering it out to make it more of a smooth transition. And while I've still got orange on the brush, I'm going to put the middle part of the water in, because that would show a lot of the orange reflection in the water. And then while we're on the subject of the water, I'm going to take some of our purple on the right hand side of the water, and then I'll take some of that brownish bluish colour for the left hand side of the water. And again, I'm just feathering it in towards the orange in the middle. Now we're going to start painting our clouds, and we'll need a lighter purple than the purple we used in the water. Reflections are always darker, so the reflection of the purple in the water will be darker than the clouds. And you'll notice that I'm going to leave a little gap at the bottom of the cloud for the reflected light. And as we approach the middle section of the cloud, it's going to get lighter because it's directly under the sun. So I'm going to add some more white to that area. And then for the very middle of the cloud, I'm going to use that brownish oranges mixture because the light there will obviously have a more orangey tint directly underneath the sun. So I thought to create some more interest, I might add a little land mass on the left-hand side. So I'm just taking a very dark mixture, either that brownish one or the purplish one, and I'm just going to just make it up as I go along, painting a bit of a land mass sticking out into the ocean over there. Now that we've got most of our blocking in done, it's time to blend. And I'm taking a very soft brush and I'm just gently blending the colors together. We don't want hard lines in between the colors. And blending will also remove a very little amount of paint from the surface of our paper. And that will make the paper more receptive to more paint a little bit later on. We can add some cloudy details to our sky now. I'm just putting a little bit of titanium white in, and I'm making the clouds diagonal, which will help us to give the impression of some distance. Now I'm going to take a little bit of a lighter orange and I'm going to start blocking in around the sun and then put in that reflected light along the horizon. So it's just a little bit of orange mixed with white. The secret to making the sun look like it's glowing is to create contrast. The darker the area is around the sun, the brighter the sun's going to appear. So we're going to add some more orange directly around the sun and some orange in the reflection of the water underneath the sun. Now that we've set the scene, we can start painting our sun. We're not going to paint it white though. you need to paint it maybe a light orange. We're going to save the white for the very end when we put the highlights on. So taking a nice light orange, we can paint in the sun and a stripe down the middle of the ocean where it reflects. Then we can softly blend those colors in around the sun and maybe add a few streaks to the sky here and there. And now for the moment I've been waiting for, adding that little highlight onto the sun. And the sun will be brighter than the reflection in the water, so we're going to use again a light orange and then only use the pure white in the middle of the sun. And look at that sun pop. Isn't that beautiful? Now we can take a little brush and we can just softly blend in some of that light so it's not so hard, to almost make it like a glowy effect. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so we've got some time to add a few finishing touches. I'm just going to draw some of that orange into the water to create some ripples, maybe add a few darks here and there. I'm just stepping back from the picture and having a look and seeing what it could benefit from. Now before I pack the brushes away, I realize I haven't reflected the landmass in the water, so I'm going to do that quickly. Only takes a minute or two, and I'm just going to add a little bit of a darker patch underneath the landmass. This is what happens when you're not following a photographic reference. I'm just making it up as I go along, but at least I noticed my mistake before it was too late. And while I've got that dark color on my brush, I'll just add a few darker ripples here and there in the water just to finish it off. Alright, we're down to the last few little strokes here and there, and then it will be time to pack the brushes away, make a nice coffee and have a nice rest. But we've done a good job today. I'm very pleased with this little study. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? There's something very peaceful and relaxing about a sunset. Never fails to make me smile. Thank you so much for watching and for following along and for subscribing. If you're feeling inspired, you might want to try these tutorials too. And I'll see you in the next video.